Oh man, here it is. Special edition Law episode, and we're calling it the Totally LAWesome Top 25 Console Games of All Time collab dual channel event with Endgame Arcade. So, what are we doing here today? So, we are going to work on trying to get a universal for our group, just our group of friends sitting on the couch again, of a group of our friends having 25 games that we feel are the 25 top games within us for consoles, and we are retro consoles, so the cutoff is going to be PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii, so nothing newer than that. So everything is from there down. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to work on getting our games on here. We're going to kind of argue back and forth. Do we feel like that game needs to be on there? Does that game not need to be on there? And then once we get that, and it's going to be in no particular order. We're not talking about actual like ranking today. We're just going to get a group of 25 games. No particular order, but that's the group of 25 games. And then that's the next part of this fun thing, which I'm going to throw right down to Endgame.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Like Dan said, we're going to be talking about these games. We're not going to get the order. We've already put a lot of work into this behind the scenes, coming up with our favorite list. But that doesn't mean all of our games are getting on this list. So once we hash it out in this, episode or 2 episodes or however long it takes, then we're going to go off camera and then we're going to debate even more. We're going to see which games go in which order. And then on my channel, we're going to do a fun countdown. Top 25, 25, 24, all the way down to number 1. And you're going to get to see these are our games in this particular order. We're going to give you additional reasons why. But if you're not sure of a specific game, like why did that game make this list? Come back to Dantron's channel. We talked about it. Hey, why didn't this game make the list? Come back to Dantron's channel. We talked about why that's not on the list. So I think this is going to be an amazing collaboration. And we could take 5 people. We could take 5 different people. The list is going to be completely different. So like Dan said, it's our top 25, the 5 gamers. We're all hardcore gamers in different regards. We have different backgrounds. We've each played different consoles. So it's going to be a fun time. Wolf, you got some criteria and some rules for this episode?
Yes. How's everybody doing? So, for this slugfest, you got to have some rules or it'll be complete chaos. So we came up with the idea where we have 5 lists and each list has 25 games. So that's 25 games. And we decided, what's that?
Potentially. Some are carryover, crossover.
Right. Correct. So we thought that a way to kind of speed things up would be if a game appears on 4 people's lists, then that game automatically goes into the top 25 in no particular order because we're not ranking right now. So we all have our lists, and then we did our research, we looked it over, and there were 6 games that made it on 4 lists. And here are the 6 games in no particular order. Super Mario Brothers 3 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Legend of Zelda: The Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. I'm seeing a theme here. Final Fantasy VII for the Sony PlayStation 1, and Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64.
Wolf's favorite system. Favorite.
God, I love that. Like I love
scabies.
Yes, exactly.
And Chipotle runs.
Okay.
And Wolf, I noticed
revenge.
I noticed you had 3. We have 3 Mario games on there, so there's no rule against having only 1 from each franchise, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
And no compilations, no Super Mario All Stars or anything like that on this list, correct?
Nope.
No.
And no PC games either.
Correct.
Yeah, no PC.
And that doesn't mean the games on Super Mario All Stars can't get on here, but you're going to have to try to fight all 4 of those games on individually.
Right. Do it.
Correct.
Fight.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to start this thing off now, and we're going to hit it hot and heavy. And we're going to start with, first, I'm going to introduce the group that we have here because that hasn't been done yet. What you have off to my this way is my big man, Wales, no longer in the dessert spot.
Nope. What it do, everyone? Appreciate you being here.
We got down in the bottom. You've already heard from him. Back again, returning Endgame Arcade.
We're in the end game now, guys.
Man, we've been in the end game. And now in the dessert spot for this episode, we have Problem Solved with Eric. And dude, I'm so happy to have you back again, my friend.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Picking the top 25. We're checking prostates. We're doing all the shit.
Hi. And then the last over here is my wingman, my partner in crime, Wolfman.
Sup, bitches?
Exactly.
Oh.
So this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with one of the guests here off to my that way. It's going to be Wales. Wales, start us out, buddy. Start us out.
Do it.
All right. So we're going to talk with a game that's based on a very popular franchise. Spawn cartoons, movies, games, toys, everything, my childhood. And that game that was my favorite game up until maybe recently, and that's why it's not part of this list because it's not retro. I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. That game was always played at friends' houses, multiplayer when you could and stuff. You passed around the controller. It was an amazing game. It was a great port from the arcade. The colors were amazing in it. The sprites were great. The added stuff they did to it, and it was such an amazing game, and I believe that it should be in the top 25.
Top 25 console games of all time. And
Wow.
we're talking what, 45? Is that about right? 45, 46 years worth of games? That sound about right, Wolf?
Well, let's
For consoles,
see.
home consoles?
It's over 50 years because because the Atari was out before I was born, and then you got the Magnavox Odyssey, so you're talking easily over 50 years of home console systems.
So that being said,
Yep.
So you specifically said you think it needs to be on there, and you laid out why you think that it should be on there. The sprites, the added stuff that they added to the game. And you know what? I have to agree with you. That's why it's on my list as well in my top 25. So you have this vote from me.
No.
What say the rest of the group?
Well, I'll jump in. It's everything that you said was music to my ears. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it appeared on my list. So you have another vote, Wales.
All right.
That's 3.
Here's my opinion. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. I think the Super Nintendo version is better than the arcade. 2-player co-op, me and my friends had a blast playing it. Colorful sprites, new levels, awesome bosses. We're talking top 25 games of all time. That's tough. It did not make my top 25 games. It made my top 35 games, so I can be swayed. This it's early. It's early. I think I'm going to table this for now. If we want to come back to it, or if Eric wants to put it on, it's on, and you're not going to get a complaint from me. But if we want to table it for now, that would be my vote. But Eric, you're the deciding vote for now.
So, Super Nintendo core system with 1 controller and no game was my first SNES that I had. And because it didn't come with a game, I purchased Turtles in Time, and that was my first SNES game. I absolutely love Turtles in Time. I think it's a great side-scrolling beat-em-up. I agree with everything you said. The colors are great. The sprites are great, especially throwing guys towards the screen. That was a totally new thing. And you had to kill a boss that way, and that was so cool. I absolutely love Turtles in Time. But if I'm talking, if I break down Turtles in Time to what it is at its core, it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up. And I think there are better side-scrolling beat-em-ups that should be on the top 25 list. So I'm gonna have to say, don't agree with it cracking the top 25. Maybe it's like 26 for me, but it didn't quite make it. It's definitely a good game though.
Guys, I think what we should do is table this for now.
Yeah.
And when those other side-scrolling beat-em-ups that Eric's talking about get brought up, let's bring it back. And
Yeah.
does Turtles in Time deserve to be on over those?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
I know.
Great
I start
choice.
Yep. I start looking at lists, and I go, what about this one over here? I don't know. Does it slide above that for top 25? Does it not? But we will discuss it, and we will find out. But Wales, it's really close on the list. It's up there,
Really
buddy.
close.
And I want it
absolutely.
on there. I want it on there
Yep.
very badly. So we shall see.
I think, like Eric said, yeah, the side-scrolling beat-em-up is primitive in a lot of ways, but it's a big part of gaming history. So, I mean, I'm all for getting a side-scrolling beat-em-up brawler on here. Maybe not multiple ones. So, yeah, I can't wait to dive back into this later.
All right, Endgame, you're up then. Let's see what we get to pick
Okay,
apart
so
now.
I'm going to almost break the rules right out of the gate.
Nope,
I am
hot
not
garbage. Sorry, not on the
one
list.
game. What? I am not
In the
nominating.
dark. In the dark.
I'm not bringing up just one game. I'm actually bringing up 3 games. And the reason why is it's a trilogy of games. And I am going to be respectful to our list and all of you. I'm not trying to get all 3 of these games on the list. However, I do think this franchise, this series, this trilogy of games needs to be on the top 25 for how innovative it was. And the trilogy that I'm talking about is Mass Effect trilogy. Came out on the Xbox 360, so it barely made the retro cut, but it's part of the retro history. So, and I'm also not going to break the rules. No compilations, right? So it'd be easy for me to fight for it if I could put them all into one game and say, guys, this is it. All 3 games, all the DLC, it's on here. No, I got to fight for one of the games to get on here. So what I say is, why don't we see if Mass Effect deserves to be on there? If it does, then we can decide which game is the best one to represent it. So what Mass Effect trilogy is it was a brand new IP by BioWare that with the promise that it was going to be a trilogy of games out of the gate, which was unheard of at that time. Typically you had God of Wars or Uncharted's. They're popular. We're going to make a sequel. Oh, the sequel's popular. We're going to make another sequel. Well, this was so ambitious. They said, we're making 3 games. And not only are we making 3 games, you create your character. And it's not going to be this silent protagonist or this husk of a character that's just going to have a helmet on and not talk. No, you're going to have a fully voiced male character, a fully voiced female character. Your decisions and choices in the first game matter in that game, and then also carry over to the second game. Did you romance somebody in the first game? That's going to carry over. Did you let somebody die, sacrifice themselves in the first game? Well, they're gone. Well, what if you let a different character die? Well, they're gone, and now that character's alive. How does that affect the second game? We'll play the second game to find out. All those choices carry over. So you have like these choices here. And then in the second game, it splinters out further. And then the third game splinters out further with all the different permutations of different choices and outcomes that you can have. And each of the games do stand alone on their own. Certain games are more RPG, certain games are more shooters. The second game is this suicide mission where the whole point of the game is you're trying to get enough team members and gain their loyalty and their trust to succeed in this suicide mission. And if you do a good job, you're all going to survive for the third and final game. If you do a bad job, half your team or most of your team is going to get wiped out. How's that going to carry over in the third game? Well, you'll find out because you'll play the third game and see, based on your choices, how that all, played out. And so, I mean, it's a really epic story, and that's like the best thing for me. But then also the characters they evolve as the series goes on. So certain characters I'm going to really love, whereas Wolf, if he plays it, he may really like different characters because he spends more time with them, goes back and checks on them on your ship. You have like a ship like the Millennium Falcon or the Enterprise where you can always go back and hear what they all have to say. And you may make a choice on one of your missions where you decide to eradicate an entire species. And there's teammates that are going to be happy about that because they felt like, like the xenomorph, right? They need to be eradicated or they're going to wipe out people. So they're going to be excited about that choice. Well, other team members are not going to look at it that way, and you're going to have to live with those consequences. So I just think because of the story, because of the ambition, how everything carries over from game to game to game, it's worth playing through the entire trilogy multiple times with different characters Do you want to be a Paragon and Luke Skywalker type character? Do you want to be a Han Solo, anti-hero type character? Or do you want to be like a Sith Lord type character? You can play Renegade. It's up to you. And in this game, it actually matters, like the choices and stuff. It's not like a new game like Starfield where, hey, we have thousands of planets that are randomly generated, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just all useless stuff. The characters matter. The moments matter. The deaths matter. Everything matters in the trilogy. And that's why I think it deserves to be on this list in some way, shape, or form. So any of you guys play it, or what do you guys think about the Mass Effect trilogy?
Sorry.
Don't all speak at once.
Okay, so Wolfman, go ahead. You speak.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be as nice as I can. First off, it was a great explanation of why Mass Effect should be in the top 25. But I feel like it's like you sharded. You know what I mean? Like you had to fart, but you went, oh man, it was a little bit wet in the back, and then you saw that you actually crapped your pants.
I didn't get that, but go ahead.
I don't know. I've been drinking. Anyhow, I think it just misses for me. So I actually love Mass Effect 2 was my favorite of the three. And I like all the reasons you gave. And for me, I had that in my top 30. So it just missed the cut, but I can easily be persuaded to put one of the Mass Effects in. And I thought your rationale and your reasoning was very good.
Nice. So here goes. So yeah, I played it a little bit. It never interested me when it first came out, but I did go back and play 1 and 2. I didn't beat them all the way through, but I do like some of the stuff you were talking about. I like how decisions carry over. I remember Fable did some of that too, but I like how decisions carry over. But I also like, okay, so those of you that have known me know that I like doing freaking weird stuff. Like, I don't necessarily like Grand Theft Auto, but I like Saints Row. So I preferred, and one of the reasons why I might be swayed to put this on there is you can play it based on just how hot this character is. Do I feel like romancing this character or not? Do I want this character to be happy with me or not? Like, you could care less about it. Like, oh, yep, this whole planet's going to get destroyed, but this chick thinks that's cool. All right. So I like that weird oddball setup. So I do like the fact that it gives you, it has some guardrails, but really the guardrails are far. Like, if you decide you want to go just all over the place, like you could start doing like you described, Luke Skywalker, virtuous, and then just go, nope, I'm going back Sith Lord, and you can bounce off of those guardrails back and forth. That's what I enjoyed more about that game. I enjoyed the fact that you could do that. I didn't necessarily enjoy the story because I played it like an idiot. So, but that was just me. That's just me. Again, I can be swayed.
You played it a little more like Fable, so to speak.
I did. So, but I mean, again, all people play games differently, and that's how I chose to kind of play this game. And so, again, for me, it's not in top 25. But if somebody else has another argument, I could be swayed. But I that's all I got on that one.
Sure, sounds good. Next,
Eric, what do you?
Never played it. Never had any desire to play it. Don't know that it would make the list, but I don't think it would, just because, I looked at videos and stuff of it and just wasn't interested. So that was me.
Okay.
It's still on the table though. Still on the table. You got 3 maybe votes. You got 1 definite, 2 other maybes. So it's close. All right.
Yeah, I've Endgame took debate to a whole nother level on that one, and that's fine. Like, that's passion. I love that. But I'm gonna be in the Eric group. Never played it. Never really wanted to. I mean, it's, I guess, been popular because it's had multiple games, but top 25 for me is a no-go.
I remember I read a story about the ending being so bad that people complained. I remember that.
Yeah, the ending, or the original ending of the trilogy, came down to 3 choices. And basically, because there were so many choices in all 3 games up until that point, it was very not satisfying, which I would agree with. It wasn't. they did do a patch and like spent like 6 months redoing it and adding additional, permutations of the ending. And if that would have released, I don't think there would have been that, debate or whatever. But see, like for me, it was one of those things where I invested all that time in the first game without knowing where it was going to go. And like I said, like Fable, Peter Molyneux, he promised lots of stuff in Fable, never delivered on half of it. Cyberpunk promised lots of stuff, never delivered on half of it. Whereas on Mass Effect, to me, they delivered. They delivered where, oh, this romance carries over from game to game. I never played a game like that before. Oh, these squad mates carry over from game to game. I never played a game like that before. Oh, I pissed this squad mate off in this one. Oh, well, they're not friends with me now anymore. Or I got this person killed. Like, to me, those are little moments in gaming that I couldn't play in any other game. This series brought that to me. And that's why, to me, top 25, it's an experience that I think our viewers should play. And that's why I think, that's why I was fighting for, because I think it is an experience that our viewers should play. Maybe they don't like it, but I think it's an experience that's different from everything else we're going to talk about. And that's why I think it should be on there. But I don't have the vote, so we can table it for now and move on to something else.
It is a choose your own adventure video game, basically. If you like to choose your own adventure books, you can do that, and you can go, ooh, I don't like where this one went. Let's go back to page 34. so that's always good.
Well, and Dan, to your point, I played through it multiple times. So like my Paragon playthrough, I was a male shepherd, and I wanted to romance this character. I wanted these characters on my team. I wanted to gain their loyalty. The third game, I perfectly calculated like, oh, this decision is going to have a good payoff. I think this one's going to have a good payoff. And in the third game, it was awesome payoff after awesome payoff after awesome payoff. Whereas my female renegade character, I was a selfish son of a gun, and I would purposely like punch reporters, throw people off of buildings. And I purposely let half my team die on the suicide mission because I wanted to see, well, what happens. And my third game playthrough wasn't as satisfying because I kind of messed up in the first two games. And I love that. It's almost like permadeath, so to speak. Like the games that, if you love permadeath, it's like, well, I needed to go back and redo my decisions if I wanted a better conclusion to this. But I love that there was a conclusion, So
yeah.
Good point with your choose your own adventure.
Yeah, and I chose a girl, and I tried to romance a whole bunch of girls. So go figure that one out.
Nice.
So, anyways, all right. So Eric, you are up, sir.
I am up. Game that needs to be in the top 25 of all friggin' time for console games. Forgive me, I've been drinking. But one of the games that needs to be in there, abso-freaking-lutely needs to be in there, is Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. Chrono Trigger is freaking amazing. So it took everything that people loved about Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo, and it just made it better. The battle system's better. All of the art was by Akira Toriyama from Dragon Ball Z, and some of the characters look like Dragon Ball characters, which was kind of cool. It's just a different art style. The story was freaking epic. There were 14 different endings that you could get depending on decisions that you made throughout the game. There were a bunch of different ways and different orders that you could do the stuff in the game. It was a long RPG, JRPG, and had the action/wait battle system, which was really great. This introduced a new mechanic that I hadn't seen in a game before that they called dual techs or triple techs, where you could combine your abilities with other characters and do more powerful things. It had a bunch of secrets for you to discover. The storytelling in it was really, really good. The music was freaking amazing. And everything about this game just blew me away. And the replayability of it was great because of all the different endings that you could get and all the different paths that you could go down. You had a awesome cast of characters. A really awesome enemy in the game. It included time travel. It included and stuff you did in the past. If you went back to the future, it mattered because you did certain things in the past, and those things would carry over to the future. So it was a great game. Again, Super Nintendo. I believe if you are a JRPG lover, this game should be in the top 25. I believe it does enough for the genre for it to be good enough to be in the top 25 of all time.
All right, I'll start.
Yep. Go, Wolf. I see you nodding.
Okay. I could not agree with you more.
Oh, nice.
It's on my list. It's probably one of the greatest RPGs I ever played in my life. It's right up there with like Terranigma, Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy VII. It was just an unbelievable experience from start to finish. All the things that you said. It's a must play. It's beloved by anybody that's ever played it. And I think you're right. I think it must be on the top 25 greatest console games, and you absolutely have my vote.
Nice.
So I am a big JRPG fan. That being said, I did not get into RPGs until the PlayStation 1. Then I went back and played Final Fantasy III and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past and a bunch of those sorts of games. Chrono Trigger is a blind spot for me. I know what Chrono Trigger is. I know I've seen it on everyone's list and all that. So unlike some of you guys who did not go back and play Mass Effect, for this, I did go back. I did play some Chrono Trigger because you guys already mentioned the other game, Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo. That's my passionate speech that Eric just had. That game has to be on this list. So I wanted to go back, and if it came down to Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, which one am I going to battle for? Well, my vote's still going to be for Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy III. So here's the question: can we get both of those on the list? I don't know.
I don't know.
So, what do you guys say about Final Fantasy 3/6? How does that compare to Chrono Trigger? Because I would rather have Final Fantasy 6 if we're only getting one of them on.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 6 is also on my list. It's actually on my list. Well, I won't talk about the order, but it's on my list. It's very high on my list. And if it came down, just like you, if it came down to a debate, if we could only get one, unfortunately I'm gonna have to agree with you. Final Fantasy VI gets on and Chrono Trigger doesn't. That breaks my heart because I love both games, but Final Fantasy VI does something to my insides that makes
Diarrhea?
me feel good. No.
No.
The absolute. I mean, it is like it. Yeah. If it came down to a debate, and we could only get one, I would have to say Final Fantasy VI. So, I got to put that to the rest of the group. Are we doing Final Fantasy VI?
I think it's horseshit that we're doing this. Okay.
Why's that?
So the game that was brought up was Chrono Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should vote for that as is and not kind of like say it's I don't think that's fair to do that because then we could do that with a whole bunch of games.
And I agree because that could go that way. But I also agree. I agree that I could have a point made for both of them making the top 25. They are works of art.
Absolutely.
But I agree with Wolf. We should talk about Chrono Trigger, and my opinion still stands. I think it should be in the top 25.
So Chrono Trigger for me now. So we'll get back to that. And we're not talking about really like where they were on the list, but for me, I'm gonna let you know Chrono Trigger was sitting at number 26 for me. So I looked through my list as you guys were talking, and the memories were coming up, and I booted one off of my list, and I give you my vote for Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger, I believe, needs to be top 25.
There we go.
I am kicking off one of my games. I'm not going to say what game it is because it doesn't matter. but I'm kicking off one of my games, and because I have to sub it, right? If we're going to talk about 25s, that's how it's going to go. So is it better? I looked at my own list. Is it better than something else on there? Yes, it is. After going back and thinking about it and really where it is as a work of art, an all-time consoles game, it is better than what I kicked off. So that being said, you have a vote from me. Chrono Trigger,
Nice.
I believe, should be on top 25.
So Endgame, you have to bring it back now and just talk about Chrono Trigger. Should it be on or should it be off?
Yeah.
Okay. And we do have the rule, right? If we vote a game in and later on we all agree that a different game should go in, we can pull one out, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You can always pull out.
So
Not always, but
I
Always.
think Chrono Trigger is a top 25 game of all time.
Yes.
All right.
all right.
What?
Final
Oh.
Fantasy III is as well.
Caveat.
Wales, you want to say anything about Chrono Trigger?
He said it was a blind spot for him, didn't he?
Well, no, it was for me, but then I knew.
Oh,
about
it was-
Right?
oh.
I knew all about it, but I actually went back and played it. You know,
Oh,
just
right,
so I
right,
could-
right, right.
If it
No,
came
we
down to
didn't-
that, where we're battling between those two, you know,
Yeah.
we could have I could actually have some meat in the game. You know.
Yeah, yeah. No, Wales, did you get a chance to talk about it? Sorry.
Not at all. No. So I am not an RPG fan. I don't like them personally. I don't like games that just suck your time away and everything. It's just not my style. It's not my thing. But having said that,
Okay. Okay.
I vividly remember Chrono Trigger and going to friends' house, watching them play because I like to watch. And
Voyeur.
it was they had such a great time with it, and I remember the gameplay, and it almost got me hooked into it. It almost did. And I remember the boss fights, because being a young kid trying to get those boss fights, those were epic at that time. And I appreciated the effort that went into beating that game. Like, you felt like you accomplished something, especially at such a young age for it, like it's a satisfaction kind of thing. So is it in my top 25? Hell no. But would I be upset if it was in top 25? Hell no. So
Nice.
I mean,
that in itself. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was like, I can be swayed into Chrono Trigger. I will be on the
Nice.
flip side of that, and I would say I would take Chrono Trigger over a Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Ooh.
Damn.
Okay, so
Yikes.
we're sticking that right now. That is number 7.
That's in.
That's in at
That's
this
in.
point. At
In,
this
yeah.
point. So
Not-
Not number 7 in the top 25.
Right.
No. Just
that's
we're trying
that's
to
the
get.
7th game
Yeah.
in the top 25 that is in at this point.
Right.
But that also
Yeah.
is the first one that when we start talking can be bumped. So just there we go. So we're just gonna keep going on. Good job, Eric. I like it.
Nice. Love
All
it.
right. Wolfman.
Okay. So Eric's speech inspired me, so I'm going to go that same route. And I may never talk to anybody that's here in this virtual room again if this game doesn't get into the top 25. And I'm kind of serious
Wolf disconnected.
when I say that. So the game that I think should be in the top 25 for many, many different reasons, and I'll just give a few because for the sake of time, is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. To me, that goes down as one of the greatest, most creative, side-scrolling adventure / RPG element type games I've ever played. It ushered in an entire genre of games that in Super Nintendo, Metroidvania games. It was you had a cool character, an Alucard, and you had all of these neat kind of weapons and familiars that you had a chance to kind of level up and collect, and a giant castle and a cool map to track stuff, and just the whole idea of the mirror castle at the end, and just, man, that game I can't tell you how many times I've played that game and beaten it, and it's just so much fun. And to me, it is the pinnacle of what I just said of those type of games. And yes, I am slightly biased. I do love all the Castlevania games, but to me,
All of them?
this one stands far and above the rest. And I think it is a case study in what a game like that should be.
All Castlevanias? Well,
No,
nope.
nope. But many of them.
I'm
I will
fucking
say
with you,
many.
man. I
Yeah,
get it.
no, definitely not all of them. There's some turds. As
I
far
can't
as
think of two
Castlevania.
on a
But
console.
Thumbs
off
up
the top
that
of my
keeps
head.
Just
showing
constantly
up.
sitting there. The
Yep.
If
thumbs
you do
up.
this, it'll pop up on your.
Oh my goodness! But this game, I mean, just. And even if you don't like that genre, I still feel that you should try it because you could love it. Just certain elements of it. Just the soundtrack alone is amazing. That alone, plus the graphics, the 32-bit graphics, was on a PS1, and I don't know, it just elevated and brought up that style of game to the zenith or the apex. I don't think you could touch that type of game. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a case study that should be looked at for all other games of that genre.
It though. Okay. Rondo of Blood though. That
Love Rondo of Blood.
yeah. So Eric, what do you think?
All right. So I've played maybe all of the Castlevania games. There might be one that I've missed in there, but one or two. But I have extensively played the Castlevania games. And if I had to pick a Castlevania game to make it on the top 25, the game that I would pick would be Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It is on my list. This game brought everything. This game had exploration. This game had platforming. This game had excellent graphics. This game had symphony in the title, and it had CD quality music that was incredible to go with every different area that you were in. And it had incredible voice acting in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, people can quote the entry speech between Richter Belmont and Dracula, his whole "what is a man?" Like it's excellent. The sound was great. Alucard was a badass character that you got to take control of. Someone that the NES you got to play him, but you didn't quite do him justice. Now you get this guy. I'm a sucker for any video game where you're the main character and you fight a boss, and a boss has such cool abilities, and then you get those abilities. I don't know why, but I always love that in a game. And when you see Dracula throw those like balls of fire and shit, and then you get that ability as Alucard, I'm like, dude, he's a vampire. He can do the same thing as his dad, and it's badass, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do all that stuff. Um, the sheer amount of items that you can collect in that game, the idea that I played through it, thought it was over, and then found out I had basically an entire another version of it that I
Mm-hmm.
got to play again. And I was just like, and it was different enemies, it was harder, different bosses. And I was like, holy shit, this
Yep.
continues the story. There was a little cutscene that went with
Mm-hmm.
it. Just like that game had me so pumped. I have probably purchased that game at least 9 times.
Yeah.
And different consoles. I played it on the Vita, or was it Vita? Or it might have been the original PSP I played it on. So I played it on
Yep.
PS1,
PSP.
played
Yep.
it original PSP. I have played it on emulation. I have it on my
Xbox
ROG
360.
Ally,
Yep.
Xbox
360.
360. Yeah, it's one of those games whenever I'm doing something or I'm emulating something new, I start that game up as my test. Does the sound work? Do the controls work? Can I reliably do spells? It's an amazing freaking game.
You know
It
what?
absolutely-
Yep. You
Go
know
ahead.
what, Eric? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
But I think if you and I could come up with a word together, because I think I could feel your passion, because we feel the same way about the game. Timeless.
Oh yeah,
Timeless.
absolutely,
Timeless.
absolutely timeless. And so Cynthia Harrell, people aren't going to know that name. Cynthia Harrell's an amazing, incredible singer who doesn't get enough credit. She lended her voice to the credit song in Symphony of the Night, and it's freaking incredible. And yeah, just love that game.
All right,
Wales?
anybody else?
What do you think, Wales?
I have not played the game, and apparently I need to because I am a huge fan of the Castlevania series. I've played up through 4, and I don't think I've played past 4, but I loved every single Castlevania game. And so hearing y'all's passion and, you know, I love soundtracks. I love soundtracks, especially for music and stuff. So it's definitely a game I would give a shot. Is it in my top 25? No. But if it ends up being the Castlevania series representative for it and we have a spot for it, I'll absolutely vote for it, just because of my knowledge of the franchise, having played stuff before it. And if this is the best of the best from it, then I have no problem voting that in, because I love the Castlevania series, and it needs some game from that franchise has to be in the top 25. Just does.
Dan?
So, as I sit, you can see the wheels turning.
Yep.
So, if one's going on, one has to come off. So, I'm looking through my list, and is there a game that I could come up with on my list that I feel can be substituted for Castlevania Symphony of the Night? And you've seen me sit there and stare at my list now here for the entire 5 minutes we've been talking about this game. And I hate to say it, but there is a game on here on this list that I do believe can be bumped by Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So you have a vote. You have a vote from me. And if you guys know me, if you know which game I am bumping off of this list, you're gonna lose your freaking mind. But and when you break it down, we're talking top 25 console games of all time. Not necessarily top console games for me specifically. I have to weigh and balance, because there is games that I'll lean more towards because they mean more to me, and they still mean a lot. But then I start looking at, what about this game though? What does that mean to me as well? And then where does it lie as far as all gaming in general? Right. And I have a game that's going to get bumped off. So there you go, Wolf. You get a vote from Dantron.
That's right. It's down to in-game.
So they got 3.
And I don't think, Dan, I'm not actually approaching it the way you are. I'm not going to cross off a game off of mine, because I'm not going to fight to get all my games on the list. So I just am going to listen to what everybody has to say. And if this game sounds like it should be on, then I'll vote yes. And if it doesn't sound like it should be on, then I'll vote no. I approached Castlevania like some other franchises, like Uncharted, God of War. Love the franchise. Are any of those games my top 25 of all time? I would say no, but I love all the franchises. That being said, it's not my list. It's our list. Is Castlevania Symphony of the Night a game changer? Absolutely. Was the Castlevania franchise amazing before that? Yes. And it flipped it on its head and evolved the franchise. So I also will give the vote a yes, because I do think it is a game that should be in our collective top 25. We have, we have a lot of different gamers in here, and I think enough of us really appreciate Castlevania, and I do think it should be on the list.
Nice.
So let's add another game to the top 25 games.
Game is added.
Wow. Beautiful.
Man, 2 in a row. Now I'm going to throw something else out there that I can agree. So I have a couple of oddball games that I think for gaming history that they should be top 25. However, I'm not going to discuss and get into those weeds yet. I'm going to get a heavy hitter that I'm like this with Wolf. If this game does not make it onto this list, I am going to be freaking shocked. This game has
Okay.
been made and remade over and over again. I've played it multiple times. I've even beat it on my channel. So people talk about that you've never beat a whole game on your channel. This is one that I beat on my whole channel. So I'm going to throw it out there, and it needs to be in top 25 because I believe it is the best version of this franchise, that because of the reason, and I'll explain it in a second, but it's Resident Evil 2.
Ooh, heavy hitter right there.
That is a heavy hitter.
Resident
Yep.
Evil 2, let me explain it just quickly, and I've talked about this in the past. It's a single player, but the story on it is so freaking good, and what it does is you have two separate stories. You have Leon, main character, and you have Claire, main character. Claire, Chris Redfield's sister. There's that tie in there. Leon is kind of just the oddball, right? He's like the new guy that came in. But here's the thing. Totally different paths, different areas that only certain ones can get to, and they're passing like this. The story is intertwined. They meet different people. They fight different bosses. The game itself, with the unlocks, the way that you'll play it, and then you want to play it again in a different way to do things faster, to get other different unlocks, and then you get other game modes that you get to play at the end where you're just walking around as a tofu in a beret, or that you're trying to escape. The game itself is a freaking masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. It is. Now there's a couple of things that people might not like about the game, and because especially now with how they've evolved, where they've evolved to third person over the shoulder or first person, I believe that the original Resident Evil 2 with the tank controls is still a fantastic game. It is designed to play with the tank controls, and it never feels clunky. It never feels wrong. Everything about it feels great. The sound is fantastic. The graphics were great. And again, the story just grabs you and pulls you in. And so that's why I believe that it should be at least, if I had to pick one representative for it, again, that's the game that's going to make the top 25 for me for Resident Evil because of those reasons.
Who wants to go?
All right, I'll go. I don't know if you saw me. I had my head down. I had, like Dan, I had the gears where they were spinning, and everything that you said kind of resonated with me. And Resident Evil 2 was not on my list. Resident Evil 4 was.
Another great game.
It is a great game, but I loved Resident Evil 2 as well. And hearing you say that, I can, and looking at my list, I have a game that I could bump because I feel Resident Evil 2 is better than the game that I have on my list. So, you are getting my vote.
All right, that's
nice.
2. That's 2. I'm working it.
All right, so I'll go next. Has the zombie thing been done before? Sure. It's been done to death in movies. Had it been done in video games? A little bit when Resident Evil came along. Resident Evil 1 was the very first game I ever played on the PS1. I loved the horrid voice acting in that game. That was so bad that I freaking loved it. And it was the first game that I could see, hey, it's kind of like playing a zombie movie. And then Resident Evil 2 came along. I played that one, and it was just better than the first one. Resident Evil is not on my personal 25 list. None of the Resident Evil games are there. But if we're making a top 25 of all time, I feel like Resident Evil does need a representative because I feel no other genre, or sorry, not genre, no other series does franchise does the zombie game as well as Resident Evil. And it has evolved and stuff like that, but just like Dan said, I really like the original playstyle. I don't mind the tank controls. Resident Evil 2 was a tough game for me at the time. It was like I was constantly low on ammo. I never had enough, and it was hard. That being said,
horror.
yeah, exactly. I played it. I beat it. It took me a long time, and I absolutely loved it. Is it not? It's not on my top 25, but it absolutely gets my vote for it needs to be in the top
Ooh, that's
25.
3.
Just one away, baby. Just
That
one.
comes
All right.
down to Wales and Endgame.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and go, and I'll get my unpopular opinion out of the way. And the reason I say that is because I have not played a single Resident Evil game in my life. It's not anything against it. It's just not anything that I really get, pumped up for or something. But also, having said that, I respect the franchise. Again, I like to watch, and whenever we did sleepover stuff, Resident Evil, I can't remember if it was the first or the second one, whichever on PlayStation, was always played, and the story was really, really good on it. Another reason I think I never wanted to play or something is just because it was hard as balls, just super hard. And there were other PlayStation games that were more interesting to me. And again, it's just another genre thing. That's just not something I want to really play. But I also like the Castlevania series, and like Eric said, Resident Evil needs to have a representative on the top 25. Now, there's like 6 or 7. I don't even know how many Resident Evil were. So if that's the best of the bunch, y'all are saying 4, I wouldn't know because again, I haven't played it. But if it came down to it's either Resident Evil 2 or nothing, then I would probably vote for it. It's not obviously not on my top 25. None of them are. But it depends. If it needs to be on the list, I would vote for it because it's better than a lot of games on my list because I probably have a crummy list and it's a non-popular list. But I think it needs to be there. It just depends on whether it's there or not. So.
What say you, Endgame?
Okay, unlike Wales, I love Resident Evil. I have 3 games on my list. Resident Evil is on my list. It is the last one of the Resident Evils on my list. Wolf already got on my case about comparing other games and making a choice, so I guess I'm not going to bring up the other 2 Resident Evils at this time. So, does Resident Evil 2 deserve to be on our list? Absolutely. Are some other Resident Evils also deserve to be on the list? Absolutely.
Oh, I agree. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna 4 is gonna be brought up at some point,
Yeah.
as well as probably 1.
Yep. So good choice, Larson. Resident Evil 2 was a really great game. Lots of replayability, like you said. I also love the tank controls with the fixed camera angles because it added to the survival horror element. Because you didn't feel like you could, like in Halo, jump and run and hit, and you didn't feel like you could do all that stuff. You felt like, oh, if I mess up this shot here, or if I can't see what's around the corner, I better back up. I loved it. So yeah, absolutely.
You could hear the sound. That's another thing about the sound. With the tank controls, you would be in a spot and you could hear 2 zombies shambling around.
Yeah.
And you couldn't see them. And you're
Right.
like, where the frick are these guys? I got 4 rounds. Like, that's
Yep.
enough for me to stun, shoot twice, luckily, maybe, and stun 1 and hopefully run around the second one. But I don't know where they're
Right.
at in this room. So, yeah, yeah.
That is our 9th game. That has
Nice.
made the list.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Sweet.
All right.
We're rolling. Go ahead,
We're
Wales.
moving.
Wales.
So we've done 1 full round. We've already added 3 games. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Pretty
We're doing
solid.
good.
Impressive.
We're doing good.
Well done.
Yep.
All right, so my next top 25 is a game that, to me, made open world kind of what it is now. I was not familiar with it. I just heard about it a lot, and when I actually played it and then found out just so much fun it was, me and my friends, we would just take turns where you could either do the story, you could do what you're supposed to do, or you had the ability to literally go around and do whatever the hell you wanted to do. You could have done whatever it is, whether it was good, whether it was bad. You could do something that wasn't even part of the game that you got to just choose if you wanted to do, just to kill time and whatever. And it changed my outlook on games and just and how games had evolved to being really endless. Like, it was the first time I felt like there was endless possibilities. And that game is Grand Theft Auto 3. for PlayStation.
Oh boy.
Woo!
And so I know Larson's not a fan of it, and I respect that. I respect his thoughts on it and stuff. But just for me, I mean, they've made the game, you know, obviously what it is now and how crazy it is and online stuff. I like 3 the best because it wasn't online. It was just you were there, but that stinks because you couldn't do multiplayer with it. But how we did it was just one person had the controller and you just did until you died. You either play the game until you died on mission, or you just went postal, did whatever you died, or you were, you know, whatever it is stuff. And when you died, you handed the control up, and we were all sit and just watch. We would laugh. We would be like, "Oh my god!" It was just all kinds of stuff. It was just you got to just do what you wanted to do in a game, and I've never felt like that ever until I played that game. So that's my opinion. I think it made the industry or that genre type of game what it is now across multiple platforms and multiple franchises. Now you've got your Spider-Mans, you've got other Grand Theft Autos, you've got now even some racing games are now open world and stuff, like your Forzas or you know, Gran Turismos. I mean, you know, now it's starting into fighting games where you have map and you can go and do things that never would have been thought in the OG games. So that to me kind of just changed the game landscape. And so I'll open it up to you guys.
Endgame should go first because
Yeah.
he's been going last every time.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Wales, everything you said about Grand Theft Auto 3, 100% agree with. It was a game changer. I was in college. Didn't play as many video games. Still love video games. Didn't play as many. Went to a party. They're playing some game. I'm like, dude, what are you playing this game for? We're at a party. We're having fun, talking to girls, all this fun stuff, right? And then I started watching them. I'm like, this game is amazing. And had to buy a PlayStation 2 to play it because it like you said, it broke genres at the time. You had racing games, you had third-person shooters. This was the first game that really combined them seamlessly, where you didn't even have to play the missions or anything like that. My problem, though, Wales, is Grand Theft Auto 3 does not hold up at all. And I personally like Vice City much better. So if we're going to put the idea of Grand Theft Auto on, I can sign up for that. Let's vote on the best Grand Theft Auto. But if we're just talking Grand Theft Auto 3, that is not one of the top 25 games of all time. If we were talking the 25 most iconic, you know, meant the most to video game history, 100% it deserves on that list. But I am not going to vote Grand Theft Auto 3 specifically on the list, unfortunately. Even though I 100% agree with you, great game at the time, just doesn't hold up.
I'll chime in real quick. I think Wales is on to something. I think for a top 25 console games of all time, there needs to be a Grand Theft Auto representation of some sort. And like my bud just said, Endgame, I fully agree with what he's saying. Grand Theft Auto 3, it does not hold up. My favorite by far was Vice City. I love the theme. I love the music.
Miami Vice.
Exactly. Vice City, it would be the one that I would vote for, but I would not vote for Grand Theft Auto 3. But I think a Grand Theft Auto needs to be there. I think Wales is right. It's just a matter of us trying to come up with what should that representation be. But that's kind of where I stand.
So the only Grand Theft Auto game I've ever personally played was Grand Theft Auto 2, which was a vastly different game than Grand Theft Auto 3.
Top down.
Yeah, top down, and yeah, just not the same kind of game. But that being said, I know a lot about the GTA series, or a reasonable amount. I know that GTA 3 was the very first 3D, 3-dimensional version of GTA. So I feel like it does get some points there because it was different. And I think every GTA since then has kind of followed that, you know, that sort of theme or that sort of path. I just they were not my games. They were not, maybe I was just like too much of a goody or whatever, and I didn't want to,
blow up a bus full of children.
Right.
No?
Yeah.
You-
Maybe I just.
You can't do that in the game.
I know, but
Well, but there are other things, and it's like, and I'm a hypocrite because of reasons, but it's just it wasn't my thing. That being said, I believe GTA needs representative on this list, so I'm with Wolf for that. I don't have enough experience to be able to tell you which one goes on and which one doesn't. If you guys decide GTA 3 is it, then I'm down. If you guys decide Vice City is it, then I'm down. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I will say the friggin' trailer for the new GTA coming out looks friggin' amazing, and I'm probably going to play that game. But yeah, I don't know enough to be able to say yes or no for GTA 3.
all right. So we are to me now, and it is not a secret that they are not my favorite. Now I'm not going to say I haven't played them because I have, and I would agree with everything that you guys are talking about. I agree that for our list, top 25 should have a Grand Theft Auto. So again, there you go. So you technically you have 4 votes for Grand Theft Auto to make it top 25. Now I'm to the point to which one, or we're to the point. We can have that conversation now. Which one out of the Grand Theft Autos? Now we've agreed a Grand Theft Auto is going to go on there because I'm giving you the 4th vote. So actually fifth. This is 5th vote.
Fifth,
This
yeah,
will be
we all-
so we all agree that a Grand Theft Auto is going to go on here. Now we're going to take a second and quickly go over which one should go on there. And I can already tell you there's 3 votes for Vice City because I agree Vice City was, out of all the ones that I played, the best out of those, out of at least before 5, right? So
then it's in because it's majority, right? A Grand
free.
Theft Auto game, 5 votes.
Oh,
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
in. We don't need 4 votes for the title.
Nope.
Well, why don't we let Wales talk at the
Chime in.
difference between Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City? Maybe he can
Yeah.
sway us to 3 because my opinion is Vice City. But what's your difference between the two, Wales?
Okay, so the only reason I said 3, Vice City is far superior. Absolutely far superior. The only reason I said 3 is because without 3, there is no Vice City. If
Right.
3 didn't do
Yeah.
if 3 didn't do what
Right.
it did, then there is no Vice Cities. And then I didn't really like San Andreas.
No.
If you told me
I
between
didn't.
3, Vice City and San Andreas, I'd take Vice City. The story was better. The music, my God, you hear flock of seagulls. That's immediately what I think of is
Amazing.
Vice City.
Oh,
Just
people
drive
know it
around.
as the GTA song.
Yeah.
It is. That's literally
Yeah.
what you look. If you were to Google GTA song, I guarantee you, other than Six that just dropped a trailer and that song is now popular, otherwise you would have got Flock of Seagulls. That's just what you would have got.
Yeah.
It was just the because what 3 did was set the bar, and Vice City went up on it in every which way. More weapons, bigger map, better story. It just took it and ran with it. I just put 3 on there because that's what set everything apart. And without 3, there is no Vice City. So that's why to me 3 was more important. But if you were to say which one of those 3 of the PlayStation 2, the Grand Theft Auto series, I would say it's Vice City, hands down.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and
Cool.
like I was kind of explaining when I was talking
Boom.
about it, if we're
Stamp.
talking 25 moments in gaming history, that's where you put Grand Theft Auto 3 because that's the game changer.
Correct.
But if we're talking the best games that we want to recommend other people to play because we think these games are great, Vice City's definitely the game.
Yep.
All
Great,
right.
great
done.
choice, Wales.
Good job,
nice.
Wales.
Good job,
It's
Wales.
in.
Nice.
All right. End game. You're back up, buddy.
And just for
I'm
the
only one
audience,
without
real
a game
quick,
on the list.
we have 10 games.
That's
now.
10, right? Yeah, 10.
10.
You got
Yeah.
10.
In the top
Yeah.
25 in no
10.
particular order.
No particular
Yeah.
order.
10
Fucking
games.
10.
All right. So the game that I want to bring up, in my opinion, was also a game changer, like Resident Evil with the survival horror, like Grand Theft Auto with the open world, and that's Metal Gear Solid 1 on PlayStation 1. It was the stealth espionage, and it was the first game that I really played that felt like I was playing a blockbuster movie. Like there's so many intricate characters with detailed backstories that you could communicate with. It wasn't like, like your Mega Mans where oh, you're going to see Airman one time and Airman's done when you beat him. You're moving on. No, you're going to run into Revolver Ocelot and Sniper Wolf and these characters multiple times in the game because the story's so well crafted. And another thing about the game that just blew me away at the time is when I was playing it, there were certain things that Hideo Kojima did in the game that far ahead of its time, nobody else was even doing these things. And it blew me away because I had no idea what to do at some of this stuff. For example, the Rumble controller was a brand new thing at the time. All you really did is when you're shooting, you hear a little vibration. So I didn't know what Rumble was. So then you're playing the Psycho Mantis boss fight, and he's a telepath, a psychopath, or telekinesis, and he's telling you, "I know everything about you. Put your controller on the ground. I'm gonna move it." And I'm like, "Is he talking to me? Like, are we Deadpooling it? Fourth wall here? What? Put the controller on the ground." I'm like, "Okay, dude." Put it on the ground. He's like, "Watch this," and he moves it across the ground. And I'm just like blown away. I'm like, "What is happening?" I didn't know what Rumble could do that. And then he's like, "Oh, I see you like Castlevania games." I'm like, "Well, yeah, who doesn't?" "Oh, so you like Suikoden too?" I'm like, "That's a pretty obscure game. How do you know I like that game, dude?" And like, he's reading your memory card because he's this psychic. And I was just mind blown. Like, yes, Castlevania games are fun. Mario games are fun. All this stuff's fun, right? My mind is blown. Video games can be so much more than just fun gameplay and playing couch co-op with your friend. Like, I'm starring in this action movie, and this is like whatever, a 8-10 hour movie, and you just keep going on. There's so many amazing things in the game. You can hide in boxes, you can stealth take people out, but if you're noisy, then they sound an alarm, and now all of a sudden you have all these troops coming after you. They can see your footprints in the snow. We're talking PlayStation 1. That is amazing, unheard of. In my opinion, Metal Gear Solid 1 has to be in the top 25 games of all time. Every single gamer, whether you like stealth or not, should play this game. What say you?
Ooh, my goodness. Nobody's chiming in. I guess I will. Oh boy, man. I agree with everything that you said. I mean, Hideo Kojima is a master at storytelling. It was a game that was genre defining. I mean, really. Here's where I'm at with that. Like, so on my list, I have Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Subsistence. That was my favorite of the Metal Gear Solid games. So I know we're just talking about one now, as opposed to 3.
Wolf, we can get 2 games from Metal Gear Solid on this list.
Yeah, that's true. Just trying to think. I don't know if I could take off anything off my list. All right, come back to me.
All right.
I'm not sure.
So I'm in the same camp as Wolf. I do believe that Metal Gear Solid deserves some representation on the top 25. Do I believe it should be the first one? No, because I had way more fun playing Snake Eater. So I have personal connections to that game. I really love that game. But that being said, Metal Gear Solid needs some representation here. My vote will go either way. I believe it should be some representation. So I'm like a conditional yes. If we decide it's the first one that goes on, then totally down. It did some remarkable stuff, and for the PS1 to be able to do that, it was revolutionary. So
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Larson, you went last time. You go now.
So I think I am in. Don't get me wrong. I like Metal Gear. I like Metal Gear games. I don't. You know what? I love you guys, but I'm gonna catch some flack because I don't believe that any of the Metal Gears need to be in the top 25. I'm sorry. I don't.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a mistake.
that's a punch in the nards.
Again. So you don't need me for that. But when we're talking top 25 console games of all time, and again, I'm going with you guys. Like, I think that there should be representation there, for us as a group on putting it on there. but it's not. It's to me, it's just not. None of those games are there's just too many other games that I think are better that should be on that on the list than any of the Metal Gears. Don't get me wrong. I could easily say those Metal Gears would be in my top. At least 2 of them could be in my top 35, but it's top 25 for me. Metal Gear, no.
Respect.
Sorry, dude. I mean, I love you guys, and again, you can be mad at me, but you're not going to get a vote. You're not going to get a vote from me on Metal Gears. I'm just
Your opinion.
yeah, I'm just not. I'm sorry.
All
All right, Wales.
cool.
All right. Well, I'm going to come in, swoop in, and give you guys that bump. So I played 1. I loved 1. It was a lot of fun. It was a demo disc. And that's all I've done with it until my friend let me borrow it. And I didn't beat it. I couldn't get back because I'm just not good at those type of games. But man, did I have some fucking fun running around under a cardboard box. And just learning the fact you could walk around and knock on something to get somebody's attention so you could just scurry around and stuff. Is it in my top 25? No. None of the Metal Gear games are. But I think with how the game progressed, I'm kind of with Eric. I think there needs to be some Metal Gear representation. I enjoyed watching my friends play it just because I loved the story was good. I couldn't tell you what's the best Metal Gear. Because again, I never played it, but I mean, I saw them play every single one of them. So I couldn't tell you what story was with what game, but it was franchise wise, I think it needs to be in the top 25. So whatever we end up deciding, whether it's Snake Eater, there was another one that was Sons of Liberty, but that may have been past.
Yep, Metal Gear 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think one of them needs to be on there, and you have my support on whichever one we decide to say is the best one.
Metal Gear's in. You guys just have to decide which one is which version of Metal Gear. So
the difference that I think Metal Gear has over Grand Theft Auto is similar to Resident Evil over Grand Theft Auto, where there's multiple amazing games, and the first one that broke the ground, so to speak, was a banger, whereas Grand Theft Auto 3 is not a banger anymore, type of a thing. So I think both of them should get in, but it sounds like Wales and Larson are going to be against that. And it sounds like Wolf and Eric would prefer Snake Eater. I have Snake Eater higher on my list. I just think both should be on. Taking the room, you guys can agree, disagree. I'm willing to flip my vote to Snake Eater if we only want one Metal Gear Solid representing on the list. If you guys are open to 2, dude, that Psycho Mantis, if we ever did top 25 boss battles of all time, guaranteed that's on there. Iconic. But we can only get one. Snake Eater's my vote.
So here's full transparency. We're voting for the 1 now. We can't guarantee another one's going to get on because, like Dan said, there's so many games and so many franchises that deserve representation. There's no guarantee that one will get on, but it could. So I can't make a promise. I can't say, my vote goes to Snake Eater, and then, if one is brought up, we need to vote for that. So I don't know.
Oh, no. I brought up 1. Feeling the room, 1 and Snake Eater aren't going to get on. Snake Eater has the better chance. I'm flipping it to Snake Eater.
All right.
And that's what we're voting in. Maybe later on, we don't know what number 25 should be. We can bring up 1 again at that point if it's out there. But for the sake of time, I think it makes sense. Unless you guys disagree, but I think it makes sense. Let's put Snake Eater in. That's the one that's in.
Done.
1 is out. Maybe we come back to it. Maybe
Done.
it's done for.
Yep.
You guys good with that?
Yes.
I'm. Yep. Let's do it. Snake Eater.
All right. Another one in.
Nice job, Endgame.
good job, guys. All right, Eric.
All right. Here we go. I have to go back to this freaking company. I love this company, but I have a love-hate relationship with this freaking company. Anyway, I'm going back to Square Enix. This is a different game, though. And this game gets my vote because this for me was the sleepover game to play. It was multiplayer, which was freaking amazing, and it was not turn-based fighting, which was amazing. You could screw around with your friends while you're playing it at the same time by doing really weird stuff. And but it was just amazing game. The story was great, music was great, graphics were great for the Super Nintendo. Does this game hold up now? Yes. I have gone back, I have played it, I have beat it again, and this game is amazing. I'm actually due for another playthrough. I think I try to play through this game at least once a year, and that's how much I love it. Um, there's a new one in the series that's coming out very soon, which I'm super pumped for. But my vote for this game needs to be in the top 25, and it's Secret of Mana. The Mana series itself is great, but I feel like this needs to be the representative. This is the one that everyone knows. This is the one that came to the US. And I mean, 3 players on the multi-tap all at once. Just you don't get that in an RPG. And to have that, you're just like, dude, sleepover time, couch gaming, 3 controllers. Let's freaking play through this entire game tonight. And it's a good game.
Eric, I'll go first since
Yep.
I was lucky enough to find this game for you on Black
Yep.
Friday shopping. So that's exciting to me. And I know how much it means to you because you
Yep.
turned down Super Metroid, The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past, and Super Mario Kart for one game, The Secret of Mana. So I know it means a lot to you.
Yep.
That being said, you have better games, in my opinion, on your list. We talked about it earlier. Final Fantasy 3/6. There's only so many Super Nintendo JRPGs that are getting on this list. My vote is staying with that game. I'm going to fight for that game, not Secret of Mana. Unfortunately, even though I know it means a lot to you personally, and I love your story that you had to tell about it.
I'm going to go with that too. I like Secret of Mana. I think that it is a great game. I have to hang with Chrono Trigger, though. If there's a choice, yeah, there's enough differences. With the 3-player, I love multiplayer. Guys know I love playing with friends.
Yeah.
But Secret of Mana is not. Sadly, I'm not gonna give my vote for that one on this list. Not to say that it's not a freaking fantastic game. Those of you that are watching this, just because it's not on the list does not mean you shouldn't go play it. In my opinion, but it still might make the list, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not, but it's not going to get my vote for top 25. Sorry, Eric, but I love you. But yeah, it's not.
All
for me.
good. All good.
I will also chime. I've never heard of the game until I met you guys. Just being honest.
Got
Never
it.
heard of it. Never played it. Obviously not my top 25, and I think there's better representation there. So if it's the same type of style game as a Chrono Trigger or something, then I'm gonna stick with Chrono Trigger because that one means more to me. So that's
Okay.
sorry.
Cool.
That's just my thing.
All good.
So is
Wolf,
that
do you have anything to say about it?
I do. I mean, I love Secret of Mana. I think it's a great game. It's a must play for the Super Nintendo. But there's only so many of that type of game that's going in. And if I got to vote for another Super Nintendo role-playing game, I'm going to give my vote for Final Fantasy III over Secret of Mana. I do not think Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy III and Chrono Trigger should be on a top 25 of all-time console list. So unfortunately, Eric, as much as I love that game, I can't give my vote for Secret of Mana.
okay? So
Right.
for the sake of time, though, now I'm gonna spin this up now, speed us up a little bit. We now have 3 votes for Final Fantasy 3. We're jumping into that now. I'm not gonna have somebody else bring it up again. We're jumping back into Final Fantasy 3.
Okay, it's great.
Okay.
So so we have 3 votes. So now you're talking about Wales and myself. So and I will just say that you don't even need to really talk to Wales if you don't want to, because I will give my vote for Final Fantasy 3/6
Oh,
top
wow.
25
That'd be good.
as
Nice.
a JRPG representative. I'm not afraid of having 2 JRPGs on there. Not at all. And that game is a work of art. I own it now, thanks to Eric, and it is phenomenal. So there you go. So
Wow.
that's another game that was able to be added, even though your Secret of Mana sadly is hanging out just off
Alright.
to the side.
I think
Eric,
it's a great choice. Great,
Eric,
great
that's a great
choice.
consolation prize.
Yeah.
You didn't
Yeah,
get Secret
absolutely.
of Mana, but you got Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
Yep. Wales, I
awesome.
want to hear what you have to say.
Yep, I want to hear it now, but I'm just letting you know.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
On what? What am I talking
Final-
about?
On
Final Fantasy
3.
Okay. I don't like any Final Fantasy games.
That's what I was hoping
Having-
for.
that shit bores me to death. I can't stomach any of them. I know I'm popular. I don't give a shit. Having said that, though,
Awesome.
because as popular as that franchise is, it has to be included in the list. And I heard what I guess the best one we already put through was 7, right? Is that
Mhm.
like the best?
Oh,
one
for
or
sure.
whatever?
Oh yeah.
So if you have, I mean, I guess double dip. I mean, well, obviously it doesn't matter what I say. So I mean, I'd rather put something else in as opposed to put 2 games of the same franchise in. But I mean, obviously, majority rules. So if it's in, it's in. It's just not my bag, baby.
And we're only talking so 20 out of 25 list, we got 3 JRPGs on there right now. Right?
Yep.
So if we're talking 3 out of is what, 5%? Is that right? That about right? Did I figure that
I
right?
don't know. I'm bad at math.
No.
No, it's more than that.
Yeah.
But I just made a hypocrite out of myself saying
Oh,
that
you're
we
right.
shouldn't
Yeah,
have
it's
2
more
of the
than
same
that.
on there.
15%.
But yet we voted
15.
3 Mario games through.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But the thing is, I was a fan of all 3 of those Mario games. So
I know.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Wales.
Hey, cheers.
Wales, I'm just curious. What do you like more, Final Fantasy franchise or the Legend of Zelda franchise?
Ooh, they're both shit-tacular.
That's like, do I like shingles or
Mm.
hemorrhoids more?
Yeah. Do
Right.
I want herpes or more herpes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay me to play any of those. You just can't. You just can't.
You know what? We're gonna work on you, Wales, and you know what? That's gonna be my wish on my deathbed. I'm gonna say, Wales, I want you to play Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for me, and you at least have to play it through the water temple. That's
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
for your boy
Is it
Dan
that one I
Drum.
have to-
That's it.
And then
Yeah.
get stuck.
Yeah.
I tried to play some Zelda on a live request, and I couldn't even play the damn game. It was like 10 minutes of like unskippable cutscenes. I'm like, where's the game? What do you do? Like, this is why I hate this shit. It's just
Yeah. Nice.
moving
All right.
on.
All right,
moving
Wolf.
on.
Right.
Next.
Wolfman,
Okay.
let's go.
So just want everybody to know that we are moving at a nice pace, and actually we got almost half the list done. We got 12
Nice.
games.
Well,
12
Yeah.
games.
13.
Is it 13?
13.
No.
really?
Yep.
No.
The original 6. No. Oh yeah, 12. You're right.
12.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
12.
12.
Nope. No.
I stand
We do.
corrected.
13. 13.
What are the 13?
Okay, so here you go. I'm going to give them to you again. We're going to go through it real fast. Okay, so we
Go
have
ahead.
Super Mario.
No particular order.
No particular order. Super Mario 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario 64, Final Fantasy 7, Super Metroid, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Resident Evil 2, Symphony of the Night, Chrono Trigger, Vice City, Metal Gear Snake Eater, Final Fantasy 3, and Chrono Trigger.
You said
You said
Chrono
Chrono
Trigger
Trigger
Oh,
twice.
twice? Oh, okay, sorry.
No, it's 12.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yep,
12.
12.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
12.
I apologize.
But
Apparently,
I
we're
was
not
like-
taking Chrono Trigger out.
We're not.
It's in.
Yeah.
it's
double
about
in.
to be 13.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
Let's do it.
Oh, I'm making a bold.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.